Order. Order. Lee Anderson to move the motion.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh. It is indeed a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I beg to move that this House considers antisocial behaving in social housing. Now, imagine having a government that believes that a council house should be a privilege, not a right, that you have to be of good standing and be in full-time employment to secure the keys of a council house. Imagine a government that supports the idea that a council house should be given on suitability rather than need for social housing. And then imagine that same government supporting the idea that you should keep your council house in good order. You should keep it decorated, well maintained, do the gardens, empty your bins, make sure that your families aren't causing trouble on the street. There was such a government that believed in all that, and that was the 1940s Clement Attlee government. Clement Attlee built over 1 million homes in our great country. And all the things I've just discussed above were beliefs of the Labour government at the time. But fast forward 80 years, and I think Captain Clem would turn in his grave looking at some of the council estates up and down the country at the moment. Council estates like Carsick Estate, Leamington Estate, Coxmore Estate in Ashfield, Bull Farm, estates over in Mansfield, Ladybrook, where we have these families that are creating mayhem and misery. They call them feral families in my neck of the woods. These are people that are just causing problems on every single council estate throughout Mansfield, throughout Ashfield, and it's a big problem. And in this place, we have the power to sort this out. Now, I did try under the last government, but that sort of fell on deaf ears. Now, before I came to this place, one of the main complaints I got, and I'm sure many honourable members will agree with me, is antisocial behaviour on council estates in their constituencies. And this destroys and ruins lives. Now, most of us MPs in here, I would imagine, live in nice houses. We've got security, we've got CCTV, we've got panic alarms. Some of us live in nice big posh pads in gated communities. It's all right for us. We don't have to go home each night and put up with this horrible nuisance criminal behaviour. Now imagine coming home after a hard day's work at the factory, like many people in Ashfield do, and all you can hear is swearing, verbal threats, intimidation, shouting, screaming, outrageous noises. Sounds a bit like a Labour cabinet meeting, don't it, once a week? Joking aside, this is happening in every constituency throughout our great country. And then, when you put up this behaviour, when you've got home from a hard day's graft, you go to bed, and the noise continues. You can hear the music playing. You can hear the idiots from across the street on the motorbikes revving up and down the street. You open your bedroom window in the summer, there's a stench of weed comes wafting in. And then you manage to get a few hours sleep. 6 o'clock, your alarm clock goes off, and these idiots are just about going to bed at this time because they've been up all night creating mayhem, causing crime, and being complete nuisances. Yet when you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work, to do a shift, to do your 7 days, to pay your taxes, you're paying for these jobs, these idiots, to live in their social housing. You're paying for their rent, you're paying for their benefits, etc. And it makes people wonder why. Why are we doing this? Why can't these people live by our rules? Why can't they integrate? Why can't they live our way of life? Now, Ashfield District Council, many, many years ago, had this brainwave. I'm going back about 30 years. And we had one particular street on the Carsick Council Estate which was notorious for antisocial behaviour, notorious for crime, for poor behaviour. And they put all the nuisance tenants on one street. Now, I'm not saying this is a solution, but this is what they did. So when anything kicked off or any crime, the police went straight to one street, and they knew 9 times out of 10 that's where the culprits were. But the council, the Labour Council, had this brainwave. They decided to take every single nuisance family off this street and spread them around the estate and put them on different streets. They thought this was a good idea. They thought that the good behaviour of the surrounding streets would encourage these nuisance tenants to be good tenants, to be good neighbours, to integrate, to respect their neighbours. But the opposite happened. just a few months after, we realised that every single street on that estate was having problems with antisocial behaviour. So they took the problem from one street and spread it to every single street on that estate. It was a complete failure. And our police and councils can do very little about it because they're not backed up by the courts. When we get a nuisance tenant in, for example, in Ashfield, they sometimes do carry out a lengthy investigation. You know, they give the tenant the old diary sheets, keep a diary. They keep giving these diary sheets for about 2 years till the complainant is fed up to the back teeth of filling these out. And eventually they just get fed up and stop complaining. Now, in 2022, a government survey showed that 26% of social housing tenants suffered from antisocial behaviour. That's nearly 1 in 3 social housing tenants suffer from antisocial behaviour. It's a disgrace in this country. Another report in 2018 from Nottingham University said that social housing tenants were 30% more likely to see antisocial behaviour, crime, drug dealing, etc. Glad to give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way and congratulate him on securing the debate. On the issue that he's talking about, which is exceptionally important in working class areas, would he agree with me that those who suffer most from the problem are those who live cheek by jowl with the very tenants he's talking about? The aspiring working class tenancies in social housing that want to aspire to better life for them and their children, and they suffer most, and they are the people that are crying out for help and assistance to try and resolve the problem.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. I couldn't put it any better myself. Absolutely right. As aspiring, decent, hard-working, working-class families, you know, they need that little bit of a leg up. They get that social housing, that council house. They want to do the right thing. Maybe at one stage actually buy that house. You know, they're putting a shift in. Mum and dad's going to work. Kids are behaving themselves. And what have they got next door across the road? A nuisance family who's completely ruining their lives, and it affects their mental health. And it is absolutely shocking.
Will he give way for that point in Wales?
Who's this? David.
Is defined as crime
David
and Thank you. I'd like to thank him as well for securing this debate, which has got particular relevance in my own constituency, Brecon, Radnor and Cwmtawi. Rural crime is defined as crime and antisocial behaviour occurring wherever it happens, and that happens in rural areas too. We have plenty of social housing, but in my region, just 0.24% of staff in the local police force are dedicated to rural crime units, despite the significant impact that this has in places like Brecon and Uster-Gunlais. So does the honourable member agree with me that antisocial behaviour is a significant issue across Mid and South Wales as well, and that police resourcing should reflect that challenge?
Lee Anderson.
I thank the honourable member for his intervention. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with what he says. I'm not sure we can blame all that crime on council tenants or social housing tenants, but I do take your point. Now, I'm surprised I've not had an intervention yet from the government benches on, you know, the usual question I get asked is, where are these nuisance neighbours going to live? Where do we put them? Well, on the record, honourable members, I'm not bothered where they go. But I've got two solutions. I've got two options for these people. Now they can either behave themselves and become good tenants, good neighbours, integrate, or they can do what other people do, normal people. Go and get a job, stop committing crime, save some money up, work hard, save a deposit, save enough for a bond, and then go on private rent somewhere. The important thing here is we need a deterrent. And I can go back to a situation I had when I was a councillor in Ashfield, where we had youths on the local park who were creating mayhem, they were making fires, they were attacking people, they were doing all sorts of horrible feral behaviour on the local park, and we had a real problem with the council and the police, and me as their local councillor, trying to sort this problem out. But after a bit of an investigation, we found that a lot of these young youths who were causing the problems, their parents lived in social housing on the nearby estate. So we went to see and wrote to every single parent of these children and said to them, if your child carries this on, you're breaching your tenancy agreement, and we might have to look at booting you out. You know what? It stopped straight away. The poor behaviour stopped overnight. So this is one option we have. I hope the ministers, you know, can look at this at some stage in the future, at tenancies of social housing tenants with this sort of poor behaviour. Now, I believe in a 3 strikes and out sort of rule, where you give them a warning, then another warning, and then on the 3rd warning, you're gone. And quite frankly, like I said before, I'm not that interested where these people go and live, because my focus, my concern really, is the decent, hard-working people who do put a shift in, who haven't got much money, that rely on social housing to keep them. And I do agree with the Clement Attlee government of the 1940s that a council house should be based on suitability rather than need. But to do that, we need to go back and repeal some laws we passed here 40-odd years ago in housing and homelessness legislation, and look at the people who are in priority need. And I think you know, it should be suitability, and the people that should be priority need are the people that's going to respect the house, going to be good citizens, going to go to work, and not be a nuisance in their neighbourhood. And that's me done. Thank you.
Yeah.